Hi there, everybody. How are you doing? I'm wearing festive red today in a nod to the holiday season and in no way as a hint towards the answer to the question which I'm about to ask and answer on today's video. And that question is, which football club do I support? I've been hearing this one down the years, so this isn't just a piece of self-indulgent twaddle and narcissism. It's genuinely the question I get asked most, or at least I have been ever since I started broadcasting football. So I thought, why not answer it today for once and for all? Now, there are two ways of answering this one. First one is simple. I say, I don't support a club. And maybe some of you go, yeah, right, and turn off. But hopefully not, because the second way of answering it is one that should occupy the next 6 or 7 minutes or so, in which I will explain why it is that I don't support a football club, and also give you a few thoughts of my own, purely mine, on the nature of fandom and things that I've observed down the years. So let's get into the answer then. I don't support a football club for 3 main reasons. First one would be to do with personal history and geography. The second one would be personality. And then the third one would be profession. All right, so let's get straight into it. The first one's a bit complicated to explain, but I'll keep it as brief as I can. I'm English. I grew up in a place called Essex, which doesn't really have any top-flight football teams. I was near Chelmsford City, Colchester United, but in terms of the old First Division, the nearest would have been a trip to London. We lived in the countryside, maybe an hour plus to get there to watch West Ham, maybe. We'd watch Arsenal occasionally. My brother was fond of them. Or my dad would put us in the car and drive us down the motorway 40 minutes to Portman Road to watch Ipswich Town. So those were, the football options. And we would occasionally go and watch football. Ipswich was the club we went to most of all, and my dad had an affinity with Bobby Robson, the legend. Dad was a Geordie. He grew up in Newcastle, but he moved south when he was about 15, and therefore didn't have this kind of die-hard attachment to the club. But I would occasionally go to Newcastle and thereabouts for family holidays and go and watch at St James's Park, and loved it. Saw Malcolm McDonald play a couple of times. Yes, I'm that old. But back to Ipswich, it was a fabulous place to go and watch football. We would go along there. The football would be magnificent in the mid to late 70s and early 80s. Remember, they won the UEFA Cup in 81. So Bobby Robson was coaching them absolutely brilliantly. Great players, the 2 great Dutchmen, Tyson and Muren, etc. And it was always a lovely day out. We could always get in. It was a family, nature, and environment and atmosphere to the club. Big clubs would come and play there, and it would always be an entertaining game. So I enjoyed going to Ipswich. When I was 17, I moved to Hong Kong. Very long way from England, and the First Division didn't get a lot of coverage. You'd have the radio, you could listen to games, maybe 1 game a week on the television. So it wasn't really conducive to supporting a team. So I didn't really do it. But fast forward then to when I started becoming a sports broadcaster, and in particular working on football. And it kind of felt to me, or maybe I would be more authentic, or it would be more legitimate if I actually understood the fan experience, or if I was a fan. So part of me thought, okay, I'll see if I can sort of explore that. And I'd thought about Newcastle for a while. I loved Keegan's Newcastle in the 90s. But in the end, I thought, okay, Ipswich would be more legit because I actually did spend a bit of time going to watch them. So I tried hard. I bought the shirts. I sort of, publicly said, yeah, I'm supporting Ipswich. They got in the Premier League, which meant we watched them all the time. And initially it was fine. It was nice to have that excitement and buzz and take an interest in a team. But then I found myself not really enjoying it that much, because I found myself just not liking the sort of highs and lows that came with it, not liking some of the things it made me do and say as a fan, because they went against my very neutral nature and my very objective approach to all sports. So I kind of lost interest in it, and then Ipswich got relegated. I stopped really following them and really lost touch completely with the club, and I don't really know much about from the fact that they're doing quite well this year and may get promoted. Okay, so that was it. That was my flirtation with supporting a team, and I could honestly, hand on heart, not claim to be a fan of them or anyone just now. So that's it. So there were a couple of clubs down the years that I'd gone to watch. Even when I lived in England, when I worked for the Premier League, I happened to be living in Cobham, right, which is Chelsea's training ground. And my producer at the Premier League Productions always used to say, "Oh, you're a Chelsea fan." I knew it. And that was interesting, because we're going to get on to answer number 2 right now, which is personality. And, I'm very aware that supporting a football club means an awful lot to people, right? And in many cases, you support a football club because it gives you an identity, builds a community. If you're a man, especially, men are hopeless at sort of breaking the ice and talking to people and what have you. So being able to say, oh, how did your lot get on? Or how about that manager? It gets you into a conversation, but it also gets you labelled. And everyone loves to label people. Oh, right, okay, look on social media. That's Gooner Dave, at Gooner Dave there. Or that's Spurs Mick there. Or that's Jose Mourinho 659X. I mean, honestly, I find it baffling and very funny that anyone would feel that the best thing about them is that they support a team. There has to be more to you than that. Surely your whole identity can't be wrapped up in the fact that you choose to like a certain sports team. I find it quite funny, but it's just the way it works. And what's interesting is, of course, when you are a fan, every opinion you have on football, everything you say about it, is framed by the perspective of the support you have for your club. So therefore, the rivals are hated bitterly. And I detest that, by the way. I really do not like the fact that some people seem to take more pleasure from barracking against their enemies, their rivals, than they do from actually supporting their team. That just goes against the way I love sport. I love all sorts of sport. I love celebrating achievement. I love admiring anyone, no matter who they may be, who's good at sport. I don't go to sport so I can boo at the villain. I just don't get that. But anyway, so I digress. Personality-wise, it didn't really suit me. I just felt that I love sport. I could just as happily cheer an Australian cricket team or a French rugby team, despite being English by origin. I certainly loved Norwich City when Mike Walker had them playing beautiful football and beating Bayern Munich back in the early 90s. So again, that flies in the face of what you're supposed to do as a fan. So no, I think personality-wise, I'm somebody who doesn't have strong feelings politically, religious-wise or anything. So I just like to enjoy sport for what it is. Okay, so that's the way I do. I can happily watch any sport without taking sides. Last one would be profession. And I guess this knocks on from there. I just found that I could do my job as a sports broadcaster much better if I didn't have that interference of having an allegiance to a team. Now, if you're a professional, it shouldn't be a problem. And I work with some fantastic TV presenters who have very publicly and strongly held allegiances to clubs, yet they were able to do their job brilliantly, objectively, dispassionately, and without anyone ever really being able to accuse them of saying something because they supported a certain team. If anything, I found those guys and girls used to sort of compensate the other way a bit in terms of putting their own teams down. So that suited me, and it still suits me to this day. Right, I think I've covered it all there. Three main reasons for me not supporting a club. And also, I think the fact that I just love sport and I can watch sport from just about every angle going without taking sides. Let me know whether you relate to any of that. Let me know how you feel about fandom and support and what it means to you, and whether your sporting experience is better or worse for it. That's what this channel is meant to be all about, really. If you're a subscriber, thank you. If you're not yet, please feel free to. Please like, please share, and above all, please comment on this one. It's great talking to you, and I hope you have a fantastic holiday season.